Pledge.
Opposed?
You have none.
Hands raised. Oh, that's right.
Yes. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first thing we'll do tonight is to approve the agenda, pending any changes.
We have a pretty full agenda. It's full, but no changes at this time.
Somebody can make a motion
I'll
to
make a
approve.
motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second. You can have it. It's okay.
Ms. Beresowski. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. The next item will be discussion of the 2021 tax rate.
Yes, every year it's state statute. Every government entity that's a political subdivision has to set their tax rate. Of course, it's not arbitrary. There's a calculation by the state that you have to put your data into, and then it spits out basically what is the maximum levy that you need, or that you are able to recommend and set for the fiscal year. And so at this point in time, Mr. Earnhardt will kind of walk you through that and just kind of recommend what our levy will be recommended in each of the four main funds, as well as also share a little bit of information that's kind of a double-edged sword, but actually when he gets going, you will see here that the recommended levy that we are recommending for fiscal year 22 is actually lower than the levy we've had in recent years. But again, he'll explain all that. But this time, Mr. Earnhardt will talk about that when he's through. Then we'll have an opportunity if anybody wants to speak about the levy specifically, and then we'll ask for approval later on in the meeting. So, Mr. Earnhardt.
Yep, so in your packet, there's two sets of documents. The first is an updated version of the ad that we put in the newspaper. The original was based on our first certification. The one that you have is based on our second certification. You see the final, second certification, our assessed valuation, $325,056,838. When you look at the unadjusted tax rate as set by the state auditor, as Dr. Luttrell mentioned, that's set at $4.08. Last year, the tax rate was set at $4.34. And the reason for that reduction is because of the Hancock Amendment. So the basics of the Hancock Amendment basically say that the Hancock Amendment limits how much revenue can grow without a vote of the people. So we had a vote in 15, a vote in 17, a vote in 19. We didn't have a vote this year. And so basically, in general, what that amendment does is it says that the taxing jurisdiction revenue can't grow faster than inflation, and it's all based on the consumer price index. Well, this year, consumer price index is set at 1.4%. So essentially, with our property values increasing just at or over $33 million, those would boost the revenue so high that we have to use consumer price index to alter our tax rate. And so that number is actually set by the auditor's office. The second document that you have in there, the tax summary in Form A, that's all information straight from the auditor's office. It shows you the calculation, how they got to those numbers. The good thing is it does not include an increase for new construction, so we do get to capture that increase, but we are required by the state auditor's office to reduce our operating levy to $4.08. So that's our unadjusted levy. We adjust our levy to allocate funds in the four areas. So I would recommend an operating levy be set at $2.98, and then the 5/6. The majority of our money in Fund 2 comes from the state, so we don't allocate any tax money there. Fund 3 is debt services. We don't have a debt service, so we'll allocate $0 there. And then I would recommend we allocate $1.10 to our capital projects. That's the money that helps us pay off the initiative from 2021 and the lease purchase agreement that we have.
And the one thing that, to point out there, just so that there's not a confusion with the Hancock Amendment, even though we are rolling back, as he said, because our AB did increase, we're not actually going back, we're not actually going to take in less revenue than last year. We will still take in more revenue from local assessments than last year. It just will not be near what it would have been had we not been forced to. And on the average, just again, every little bit helps. And the 25-cent rollback on any home that has an assessed, not a market value, but it's an assessed valuation of $100,000, for every $100,000 an assessed valuation on a home, the savings of that 25 cents actually amounts to about $25 for the year. So, I mean, again, there is some savings that are passed back to the taxpayer, but like I said, it is kind of a win-win for everybody because, again, we're not taking in less revenue than last year.
Right, our revenue is going to grow just under $600,000, and that's because we can capture the 1.4%, but then we can also capture revenue off of new construction. So we'll increase $597,000 in change.
Anyone have any questions? If not, having given notice, the Board of Education will open the floor for public comment regarding the proposed 2021 tax rate. If anyone would like to address the 2021 tax rate? No one? Okay, thank you. We'll move on then with our meeting, and we will take a vote on this as a part of the future part of the meeting here. Move on then to good news, recognitions, and announcements.
And Mr. Pope will be here, and we'll get Mr. Turner, if you want to get the lights, and we'll let our video roll for our good news announcements and recognitions this month.
I'm Cletus Pippin. I'm the Festus High School September Student of the Month. My parents are Cletus Pippin and Stacy Pippin. It's a tremendous honor. A lot of my friends have got it in the past, so I'm glad that I get to represent our school in this capacity. I am the FHS Student Body President for the years 2021 and 2022. I last year was the Vice President of Model UN. I am the President of McKellar Project, which is a local community group that promotes local history, member of DECA, member of FBLA, and a lot of other activities here on campus. Definitely this year retailing. I love working with the numbers and working with the management style of the different people. So I'd like to study business administration. I'm probably looking at Mizzou. Now here's a look at the rest of the good news, recognition, and announcements. Congratulations to Emily Holt. On Friday, September 10th, she became the first female to play varsity football for Festus. Not only did she play, she kicked 8 extra points and had the kickoff duties for the Tigers. Her 8 extra points in one game is among the 19th best performances ever in the state of Missouri. The boys varsity cross country team is seeking a state record 8th consecutive state title this year. Their season is off to a great start. They finished first in the Fort Zumwalt Twilight Run on August 28th, then finished second in the Forest Park Meet on September 11th. They host the Bulls Meet at Larry Kreitz Park on Saturday. The middle school boys and girls cross country teams kicked off the season with team championships at the Forest Park Cross Country Meet on Saturday. They compete at Larry Kreitz Park on Saturday in the annual Bulls Meet. 4th grade teachers Kristen Dreemeyer and Heather Steichhorst were the subject of a Good Morning America online story late last month. They found a note on the website Teachers Pay Teachers. They sent it home with parents during open house last month. The note just tells parents that if their child has had a difficult night, morning, or weekend, to just text teachers with the subject, handle with care. And Mrs. Dreemeyer and Steichhorst will know that their child may need a little extra time, patience, or help that day. A parent posted it on Facebook and the post went viral. With more than 200,000 shares, 11,000 likes, and more than 3,000 comments, Good Morning America saw the post and reached out to the teachers. A few other teachers in the district also saw the note and sent it home with their students' parents at open house as well. The Festus R6 Spirit Patrol has been on the road for the past 3 Fridays. They are supporting the Festus Friday businesses. Those businesses support the school by posting a sign and their business and allowing employees to wear black and gold or Festus Tiger apparel on Fridays. The concept began a few years ago to help encourage more school spirit in the community. This year, the district is surprising a random Festus Friday business with donuts and free t-shirts to thank them for their support. Tiger Field, the new home of the softball and baseball programs, opened earlier this month. Before the Tigers hosted Northwest High School on September 1st, Dr. Luttrell cut the ribbon to officially open the field. Ceremonial first pitches were also thrown by current baseball and softball coach Jeff Montgomery, former baseball coach Don Beesting, and Chase Martin, great-grandson of the late Bonnie Davenport, who led the baseball team for more than 20 years before Beesting took over. Olivia Gillum, Davenport's granddaughter, caught one of those pitches as well.
Okay, anybody have any questions, comments? We're not using scissors again. No, good stuff, really neat thing on the handle with carrier.
Yeah, nice house.
It's really neat. Okay, next item up tonight is the consent agenda, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, followed by any comments, changes. Someone like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Wolk,
Second.
Mr. Abrams, Dr. Luttrell.
A couple things, it's pretty on consent agenda. We haven't had any MSBA policies for a while. I'm sure those will be coming around the corner, but we are going to offer the wellness benefit reimbursement to staff. We've done it the last couple of years, where they can be reimbursed up to $100 for expenses that have been applied towards just maintaining a healthy lifestyle, whether it's maybe a gym membership, whether it might be doing a 5K fitness walk, a run, or doing aerobics, at a fitness place where you come in. So a lot of leeway to the staff, and it's about the 4th year we've done it. And I did just put in there for your own review, if you want to take time to look. I did ask our staff upstairs to kind of put how much money, like 2 years ago, we paid out a little over $6,066, and you can't really, I know you think we'll divide that by 100, that means about 60 people. It really doesn't work that way because not everybody gets the full 100. Some people might just ask for 30 or 40, so you can't really do it like that. But then you can see that then last year, which was the pandemic year as well, part of that, we actually increased that to paid out about $6,700. And then if you go back, break that down though, we can break it down by building each of those 2 years into how that was. I just thought that was kind of neat to look at. And then hopefully, like I said, it is going to pay some dividends. As you know, a couple of years back, like always, health insurance is always kind of touch and go. And we actually, had some pretty steep assessments and health premium increases 2 years ago. And the past 2 years, our health insurance consortium has really done well. And I know that the last 2 years ago, we actually took an 8% reduction in our premium. And last year, we had a 0 increase. So whether this paying benefit or not, but it's still just a small step we feel we can take to try and encourage healthy lifestyles among our staff. And the other one is we do have the annual Hall of Fame induction coming up. We weren't able to have it last year because of the pandemic. We're back at it this year. We'll be on October the 8th as part of homecoming. The reception for the individual, Earl Cook, this year, who's will be inducted. His family will be there. As you know, Earl passed away a little over a year ago, but he was a Festus grad from a long time ago. One of the first that came from Douglas High School to graduate. And we'll do the reception recognition at about 6 o'clock over at the high school as part of the chili supper in HS. And then we'll come over to the high school with the family. And then about 6:30 as part of the pregame, we'll have a proclamation that the board has drafted, and we're asking for approval tonight that we will be presented and read in the pregame and then presented to his family. So those are the main things. You see some surplus items there. You know, we did get, this year, we were able to get some new instructional resources in the science department to replace some aging materials. And so we're surplacing some of the materials that had been used out. So that's pretty much an explanation of the consent agenda.
Okay, anybody have any questions, concerns? None? All those in favor of approval?
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Okay, that motion carries. We move down into communication reports. First item is a report from the food service director.
Yes, we have with us this evening Peggy Carr, no, not Peggy Carr, it's Peggy Carr, as you know, retired, a longtime food service director, retired last about November. And Brooklyn Ragsdale, Mrs. Ragsdale, came on board, and she's really done a terrific job, has hit the ground running. She hasn't had it easy at all since she started, but and so I asked her to come this evening for two reasons. First and foremost, because she has really brought some fresh eyes, insight to the food service program. And plus, it also coincides well with, as with a lot of things during the pandemic, every school district, every industry has experienced supply chain disruptions. You can't hardly get the items you need, and so that's impacted our daily food service. And so she's going to talk a little bit about just what our participation rates are, how the supply chains impacted us, and what she's doing to combat that. And then she's probably going to wrap up and kind of tell you about maybe one or two things on the horizon that she hopes she can bring to fruition and have implemented by the first of the year. So Mrs. Ragsdale, welcome, and feel free to come up and talk a little bit. They're not going to bite.
Hi. Nice to meet you all. So I kind of took a look at some numbers to give you guys. It's a little hard with everything being free to really base anything that I've brought to the table new that's improved the program, but I will give you the numbers. So as of May of last year, we were feeding about 1,600 kids for lunch, and now we are feeding about 1,800. So I know that free has really helped boost our numbers greatly. And then our breakfast is a little bit lower, but we were at 870, and now we're at almost 900. So, you know, we're getting there. Like Dr. Luttrell said, we have had a lot of trials this year. So we are having a really hard time getting our deliveries. I'm getting about one delivery a week, and just to put it in, form for you guys, I order about 400 cases a week to feed the kids 1 week, and I'm getting 130 to 200 cases. So, yeah, it's been a struggle. We're a luckier district to where we do have a wonderful stock room and extra freezer space. So before school began, I was able to kind of bring a couple weeks of inventory in and stock up. So I've been riding pretty well. That, it's not going to be the case forever. I have contacted Cisco and Kuna. I'm in the works of getting some other accounts set up so that we can have some secondary distributors. I've been looking, we've been working with Dunklin. We've been kind of helping each other out. We are on different routes, so sometimes she'll get a truck, sometimes I'll get a truck. The school districts in the area, we're all trying to kind of help each other out through all of this. But I don't see it being too much of an issue. I'm going to do whatever I can to feed these kids hot meals. Worst case scenario, we have to go to sandwiches, but these kids are going to get food one way or the other, no matter what. So, some things that I would love to introduce that I had been planning on introducing, but of course, with the current situation, I'm not going to try and, bring in anything new. But at the high school, I think that for breakfast, I want to bring in some higher end things. I want to bring in some parfaits and some breakfast bowls, maybe some better sandwiches that we scratch make instead of the prepackaged. I think that's a big issue with participation at the high school, is that what benefit do the kids have? As high schoolers, you get this tiny sandwich for breakfast. They want more. They're going to other places for breakfast. They're going to fast food places where you get this awesome croissant sandwich. They're going to bakeries and things like that. So that's kind of what I want to change in the future for the breakfast of high school. Something else I added for the 1 week I was able to was a second hot option. In the past, they have always just done sandwiches. So the kids would have a hot option, and then they would have a turkey or ham sandwich, and then a peanut butter and jelly. And this year, I decided that the kids should have 2 hot options. So if they don't like the cheeseburger meatloaf, they can have chicken strips as an option. And then we always have peanut butter as an option too. And that went really well the first week. It was great. And then, you know, with the shortage of food, I had to take away the options. You know, so we had I've introduced some good stuff in the time that I was able to, and I kind of did a little bit over summer school to see how the kids would like it, test it out, you know, on a smaller group. Chicken strips, toasted ravioli, hot ham and cheese croissants, taco burgers. I brought back pepperoni pizza instead of just cheese pizza, chicken and waffles, buffalo chicken dip, some different Chinese options, General Tso's chicken instead of just the Mandarin that we always have. Things like that. So one other thing I really want to do is I kind of want to implement more fresh items. You know, that's one thing that I value in my life is having healthy, fresh options available. And I know that that's really big. You know, even kids these days, they like that option. And so I will be implementing a salad bar at the intermediate. And at the high school, I want to implement more salad options. And then I would also like to bring in wraps. Kids really like wraps and having that as an option. And then the other thing that I've been working on is a company called Smart Mouth Pizza. So it is a company that has personal pan pizzas, and they have all the ingredients to make the pizzas. They have all the equipment that they bring in. They have a stand, so it would look like Festus brought in a pizza company for the kids. And the employees who work it wear uniforms for Smart Mouth Pizza. So just one more aspect, making it look like an outside company coming in and providing pizza. It does fit the menu, so that pizza can be paired with other items so that it is a reimbursable meal, and it can be sold a la carte. So this is something that's in the works that I'm really hoping to hit the ground running in January with, getting employees trained and everything like that. The numbers, it's looking like it would be about a with the free and reduced, I guess, with everybody universal free. It's going to be about a $900 a day profit. That's what we're estimating it as. So with the current what they're currently eating in pizza, we think that it'll definitely go up because those things are attractive to kids. You know, we wanted to implement it sooner, but obviously with everything going on, you know, it's going to get pushed back a bit. But yeah, so really exciting things. You know, I came in and I noticed that the menus, we've been using the same things for a really long time. And I came from selling food in the food industry to schools. So I kind of have a little leg up on the items that are out there, the new and exciting things. And that's just kind of what I want to bring to Festus. I want to get the kids in the cafeteria. You know, that is my goal. I go in the cafeterias and ask them, you know, what do you like? What are you looking for? A lot of answers are dessert bars. More donuts. But I do get a lot of feedback, you know, kids want salads. Kids want fresh items. And I think that's so cool. So that's kind of what I've been working on and what my goals are. And
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions?
I have a couple of things. Just,
Sure.
I think it's like introducing the salads and stuff to the younger grades. I think it's great. Get kids used to trying different stuff. But I've been reading stuff about this food shortage thing.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys getting any kind of direction on like how long this could last or what's causing it? Or...
So it's a driver shortage. That's what the distributor issue is. But then we've got the manufacturer issue where they have a labor shortage. I know a couple of my manufacturer reps from when I was selling food said they went from 140, 200 employees to 70. So, you know, things like tortillas are very short. Nacho chips are very short right now. Tyson is discontinuing a lot of items that the kids loved. Crispitos, which I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're very popular here. You know, so it's just all across the board. Those are the shortages, and nobody can give a definitive answer on when they think it's going to be better. Cole Wholesale, who is our main distributor, is actually dropping schools left and right. Cisco's dropping hundreds of schools. It's kind of scary, you know, but we're in communication, constant communication. I think we're okay because of the size that we are. I don't feel that we're a threat, you know, and the location too. trucks are here in Festus every day from these companies. So there's no reason to not provide for us.
And then also, I think one thing Mrs. Bradshaw brought up that was a good point about whether it's a factor or not is the free-for-all came in last year. It was in place last year. But remember, across the country, most schools were not in. They were virtual, or they were hybrid. So the foods, but then this year, most every school is back in, and so it's also, demand is just,
Trying to get that
Yep.
back up.
and participation, you know.
Yeah.
So I guess my question really becomes, what if we get that call like, hey, you guys are out? Or what if
So
the one truck doesn't show up this week? Do we have a plan?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah. I always have a plan. Always working way ahead. I was telling Dr. Luttrell, I don't sleep much. I wake up at 1 a.m. and I'm like, I didn't think about this. What are we gonna do here? You know, drive myself crazy with it. But we have a truck that's supposed to come tomorrow. If it does not come tomorrow, we're solid until Tuesday when our next truck is supposed to show up. If that truck does not show up, I am supposed to get a Cisco order on Monday. The prices are gonna be a lot higher. I mean, I'm talking, I pay $24 for a case of 96 individual cereals through Cool Wholesale, and Cisco's gonna be $66. But what I'm gonna use Cisco as is more of our center of the plate items, more of our meats and things, the main meal, the main components is what I'm looking for. I'm having all of my kitchens order fresh fruit, so we are doing all fresh fruit. I do have canned items for backup if need be. You know, extra salads to have that vegetable component. And that's the good thing with what's going on right now is the seamless summer. We don't have to comply by all the rules if we can't. So I have a waiver signed for everything. So I don't have to have whole grain if I can't make the whole grain ends meet, you know. I don't have to have a certain amount of X, Y, and Z. As long as I'm feeding the kids, that's what I'm worried about, and that's what we're gonna do. You know, we've got Costco memberships, we've got Sam's memberships, we've looked into that, we've looked into what we can get from them. I mean, we're all over the board. We can take our food truck and go to Cisco and pick up if we have to pick up. I've even told Coal Wholesale I'll come pick up with them, you know, down in Quincy. It's, you know, there are ways that we're gonna make this work.
Well, that's great. I know that the school lunch for a lot of families is an important
Yes.
meal of the day for them.
Some kids, it's the only meal they get.
Make sure that we.
So there will always be a meal, no matter what we have to do.
Okay.
I'm very passionate about them.
I would love to allow you, but technically we have to have a 24-hour notice. And
I just had an idea for that.
I'm sure she'll take your idea. So, yeah, certainly. Again, I apologize, this is the policy, so I need to stick to it or else I'll get myself in a bind with a future date. Other questions from anybody?
No, other than I've heard only great things about you.
Thank
So
you.
Thank you
Thank you.
for your passion.
Yeah, awesome. And I would appreciate if you would take their comment.
Yes, I
will.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mrs.
Thank
Redfield.
you for coming. Okay, let's see, we move on now to the superintendent's report.
Yes, several items I just want to touch on. First off, like I said, our ball field, you saw that in the good news. That it is finished. We have played competitions on it. Our alumni day that we had game, you know, rain and lightning and all that, we just weren't able to have that. But I just included for you there, just for your own viewing there, you know, what the final cost came in at. We're close to wrapping that up. We've still got a couple pay apps that we're going to pay, and then we'll hold some back, and that one amount there is for contingency. And one thing that has come up that I'm looking into that, you know, separate from that, we are going to be in need probably of some type of a small storage type building that's kind of has some type of a garage or something, so we can get our materials out that we need to groom, plus some storage. So I'm going to be securing some bids on what some of that might be. We probably have to pour a pad, but we have access to electric out there for it. But I'm not going to spend a whole lot, but we are going to need that out there at some point. I just got to make sure that where we put it isn't going to interfere with any future projects that we might do in that area. The Performing Arts Center, as you know, is still going on. It's still slated for a late October completion. next month at our October meeting, we will have both Bill from Brockmiller as well as the architect here to kind of tell you where they're at wrapping that up. But again, as similar to what Mrs. Ragsdale shared, is that they too are having just, it's hard getting, you know, our auditorium seats, which, you know, you can't ought to have the Performing Arts Center without the seats, and the seats were supposed to come back in July. They got delayed, and then they were scheduled to be here this week. They were gonna come in last week, the crew was gonna come in last week, probably put the anchor bolts in and everything, then put them in this week. We had the construction meeting, we go Tuesday, everything was good. We dismissed. About 2 hours later, the manufacturer of the seats said, that's supplying them to us, said, hey, we can't get trucks to get them to you, and it's now pushed back until later this month. So, and that's, like I said, that's come to be, unfortunately, kind of become the norm, and right or wrong, we're trying to roll with it, but it's gonna be, I was in there, you walked through it yesterday again, and it's gonna be a real nice facility, and I'm thinking that maybe 1 month, maybe in November or so, once it is done, maybe one meeting, we could maybe meet as a group earlier than the 7, maybe at 6, and if anybody that wanted to, we could maybe get a trip, go over there and meet over there and kind of get a quick walk-through tour of that facility, which then takes us to, we also have one thing that we do not need to decide tonight, but I just at least want to make you aware of. As you know, part of Prop F also included the necessary funds to design and plan a new wellness center for the campus that would, you know, have a seating of at least 2,000 and have a, you know, a fitness area and comprehensive health services. It's about a 38 to 40,000 square feet facility. That we had, a lot of other stuff had to come first, and now that we're finishing up with those, we're starting to design this. And one thing we need to decide as a group before we get too much further down the road is, just as we did with the Performing Arts Center, maybe we can do this next month when Roy and Greg are here, we need to decide at some point what is the maximum amount that we are comfortable with as a district allocating towards that facility. I mean, you know, I put there for, you know, what we've got wrapped up. We all know what we've got what we set aside for the Performing Arts Center for total, and we need to decide if we want to stay with that amount and we want to exceed it. Because the one thing is that, like always, again, construction costs, especially for materials, in the last year and a half have really skyrocketed, and so I mean, I just want to make sure before we get too far down the road in design, before we put it out for bid in the street, hopefully next February or so, that we are all kind of comfortable with that. We know when the bids come in, we're not going to be surprised. We can tell the architects, now look, we've got to make sure we're designing not to exceed a certain amount. And so we can have those discussions, you know, in the future months. It's just something I'd like for you all to start thinking about before we get to that point. The sidewalk, as you know, the subdivision that went in behind the middle school that used to be the Burns Farm, 150, 160 houses total. They're fixing to start stage 3. One of the things that the city and the developer put in that project was an area where, since there are a lot of children in that subdivision, that there's an area within Birchwood that has a sidewalk that that can leads up to our property, the middle school. However, we agreed that once that sidewalk went to the edge of our property line, we would then come in and adjoin that on our end, connect, so that you could have a path. And then once they get to the middle school, they can pretty well walk sidewalks to the other parts of the campus. We are getting close to getting ready to put that in. We're still securing, so we got some bids on what the cost would be. It's not going to be excessive, but we hope to have a bit of winter. One thing I have spoken just today with the developer. There had been some discussion as we've been planning this, that there was some possible discussion within the homeowners group that they might want to maybe relocate that sidewalk. So I was wanting to I want assurance from the developer that if we spent the resources to put this sidewalk in, that we weren't going to have to worry about 6 months later that it was a sidewalk to nowhere. And he's given me, this morning, we all had a good conversation, and I came away feeling pretty good that, because it was in the design of the plat that was approved. And it's been just kind of, I have had some parents that have called, said, hey, when is this maybe going to be done? I've been very transparent with them. And our goal is, if we still continue to get good assurance, and the city assures us that all is good on their end in terms of being a subdivision, they don't have to necessarily, being a private citizen, have to meet all the requirements on their end of the sidewalk as we do, because we're a public entity in terms of slopes and, although theirs isn't bad, but we did have, about a month ago, we did have the Disability Resource Agency gentleman come out and looked over that area of the sidewalk that's already poured. And we talked about, okay, well, we put, what do we, and so we're pretty well clear. I've also talked about the city and said, okay, here's what they have here. If we do this, it's all going to be well, and have gotten assurance that it would. But we hope that our goal is to have that sidewalk completed before winter sets in. Okay. And then our enrollment update. I think today was day 18 of our school year. Enrollment continues to be very fluid, but it is beginning to settle. Next 2 weeks, next will be our count day, but right now our K-12 enrollment, even with a lot of drops, we're still up overall about 123 kids, and it's pretty well scattered throughout K-12. Our current ADA every day is averaging about 3,069 in attendance, and right now, as of today, we had a total enrollment of around 3,230 kids. So again, it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. And then the last thing on my item is wanted to talk, and if you all had any questions or thoughts on our COVID return to school plan and how that's been going. As you know, we did approve last month our return to school plan, and it did have a lot of our mitigation protocols. And of course, one of the big ones was that we was elected to have facial coverings highly recommended, but still optional. And I know that's always a kind of a debate, but like I said, we still believe we have a good plan. Currently, we do our dashboard every day, and right now, I know as of today, at the end of the day, we were right at 20 positive cases across the campus community between staff and students, but they were all 20 are students at this time. We have no staff that are positive, and of those 20, it's broken down as 2 were at the elementary school, 4 at the intermediate, 5 at the middle school, and 9 at the high school. And that's pretty much what we've seen all year long. Of our 67 positive cases that we've had since our onset of the school year, 53% of those have been from the older age kids to high school, and which was really odd because they're definitely concerned about the fact that the younger ones, 12 and under, that were not eligible for the vaccine, how they would be impacted, possibly by the fact that we weren't requiring facial coverings. But again, thus far, our data has shown that of that 67 that we've had, right at 9% of the total cases have come from the elementary age. Okay, so again, and I think we have a total of 6 out of that 67 were at that K3 age group. So again, it's a daily challenge. Our staff continue to do well. I've continued to have parents on both sides of the matter reach out to me and share their thoughts. I've tried to keep open lines of communication with all of those individuals. We still feel that we need to stay the course for at least the first quarter and maybe reassess then what we might want to do, see what's going with the vaccine, see how our numbers continue to hold. Our total quarantines, by the time you take the positive cases and those that have been identified as close contact, the thing about close contacts that's misleading is that close contacts also include, they're not all school that identified here at school. If you have a student has a parent that was tested and was positive, they're then a close contact with their parents, so they have to stay home. It wasn't because, then overall, we had because, and that's where we get hit the hardest with those, because you've got a parent and there's 3 or 4 children, all of those are out, okay? And so, we tracked that, and so far we've had, I think, right at about 234 students, days missed, because of students that have been forced into quarantine, either through a positive case or through a close contact. But like I said, I say we continue to stay the course. I talked with Mrs. Roth, our health lead nurse, this morning, and she still, again, believes very strongly in our return to school plan. And like I said, we do have established thresholds of, and we've teetered close a couple times, that we knew coming off of Labor Day it was probably going to be that way, that we're going to just continue to monitor it, and we're ready to address variances that we know we're going to continue to see as we get into different holiday seasons and that. And then we're also going into, with flu season approaching, which we have flu clinics set up for our staff, and a student clinic coming up in the next few weeks, that it's going to, so we're not definitely out of the woods, and we're going to have to make sure we remain diligent about that, if anyone has any questions on our colex, and Mrs. Roth had another commitment tonight and was unable to be here, she wanted to be, but if anyone has any questions, I can try to answer.
I have a question. So the 234 quarantines could include, is not necessarily at school.
Oh, no, yeah,
Contacts.
correct, yeah, they're a lot, but I don't want to give a false, but I mean, biggest majority, more than very large percentage would be those that have had to stay. Because even if a parent goes and gets tested, okay, the whole family has to stay home even in quarantine, supposed to, until the results back. So, we'll have kids that might have to stay out 2 days because they're just awaiting the result. So, I mean, it's a lot. I mean, that's one thing, it's a double, you're keeping kids safe, but also, at the same time, a lot of those do not develop symptoms, and so they're healthy or staying home. But it's, like I said, it's a tightrope, no doubt.
So my next question then is, I know the president has issued these vaccine mandates. Are they going to be applicable to our school employees? Is there?
I haven't seen any guidance on it yet. I know that, again, without getting political, I think it's intended to.
I'm just
I think it's
asking.
intended to, but I think it's, as you ought to listen to the news, I mean, it's already, they're lining up in front of judges to say we're not doing this. So, I mean, until they tell us we have to, we're not gonna wade into it.
We'll just take a wait and see
I
what
mean,
happens.
now we'll continue to get guidance from our legal counsel as well as our liability insurance care and music.
Yeah, I guess my concern is just, more than anything is, do we have a plan if it is mandated and we have staff that don't come to work? I think we need to be thinking about that if that happens.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right, and I really don't feel comfortable speculating.
No, I'm not, okay,
on that.
that's perfectly fine, I
Because
didn't know if
there are a lot of, there have been school districts that have automatic come out and say, we're requiring vaccines, but then they have the bottom end, or if you don't, you have to agree to be tested as frequently. So, I mean,
I just didn't know if the state had given any guidance.
Not yet.
I know
They
there's a
have
lot
not.
of things that are swirling around out there. so.
And I have a question.
Yes.
Well, you know how I feel. I feel we should have mandatory masks, but that's another. I'm pleasantly surprised by this. I really am. Although, as a teacher right now, I feel that 50% of my class has COVID. They're coughing and sneezing all over the place. God bless. But last year we masked and cleaned. Are we still cleaning like that? I know we're not masking. That's optional.
We are
like last year?
cleaning and disinfecting. It's probably not to this, last year we disinfected every single time there was a class. If a group of kids left the classroom
Right.
to go,
We're not doing that.
we're not doing that, but
Okay.
we're still doing it routine. And at least once a week, we're going through every building at night with the big defogger, disinfectant.
Okay.
Our school buses are done after every route, completely disinfected. So we still have a lot of mitigation. It's not at the degree,
Right.
but we do have, again, except for the, well, staff you can consider as never building, but, you know, while you do not have the mask, you do have the fact that kind of working some in our favor to some degree. The vaccine is available this year. We didn't have the vaccine at
This
all
is
last year
true.
for anyone.
Right.
And even though it's, I mean, but we're still, but like I said, I'm not gonna, it's a daily effort. I mean, it's, to say we're out of the woods and we're nailing it, I mean, it's,
I'm just curious, do you know how we compare to like Fox and Dunklin who have mandatory masks? Are they in like the same as us? Do we know that? You wouldn't know. You wouldn't look it up. I'm just curious.
I'm not gonna, I can't.
Right.
as-
I can't find that out
I
myself.
think that everybody's got different data.
Yes,
And
this is
everybody
true.
defines how they go choose their data.
Yeah.
And so, I just know that, again, what I feel great about is that I know that it's the plan that we have. I mean, I think it is, but again, we've got the thresholds though that say right now, if we pop up, we could very well bring the mask back on for everybody. And so, but at the same time, I do think at some point as the vaccine, we're gonna have to at some point look at finding what is gonna be the happy medium to, at some point, all schools are gonna have to, even the ones that are in, are gonna have to start hopefully getting some of those layers back. It's just finding the right time to do that without
Thank
having
you.
everything pop up.
Thanks.
Any other questions? So we're gonna keep moving forward with our,
I have one question. About the close contacts. Still, I know last year, we went all year, and out of all the close contacts, there were 0 positive cases that we know of that resulted from that. Is it about the same this year?
it's very, very low, and which is a good, but, and not to say that again, that you're never gonna have it not happen, but no, it's very low. And the fortunate thing too is this year, which I'm really, you know, it's not that it's something you should shout about, but I mean, we're fortunate that, you know, we have not had, at least as of today, and when I talked with Mrs. Roth, any of our students that have been positive that have required hospitalization or anything, which again, now that could change quick.
No, let's hope not.
And, but again, it's a continued effort. And even if you're, regardless of what workplace you do, it's just a
Exactly.
continued effort. But I will say our parents have been good about, even though not everyone agrees, we've tried to find some common ground and try to keep the mind of communication open, because as I try to tell you, everybody's got the same goal, and that is keeping our kids in school,
That's right.
keeping them healthy. It's just, how do we go about that?
These are hard times.
And then the last thing I had was just gonna set the stage for a couple months down the road, but you may have read earlier this week, the state did require us to still test last year with state assessments. They released the state averages from those assessments at grade level in ELA, math, and science earlier this week. As expected, it's no surprise. Definitely, you know, overall score percentage dropped. So we know the state average, we know what our own locals are. We haven't, it's still embargoed a lot, the local data, but we're, like I said, I know that I'm very happy to, you know, when we look at our data, yeah, we're like everybody else. We had some drops across the board, but we also know the standard that our staff and our kids meet every year. And while just some of the data I've been able to get a hold of from some other places, and even looking at our data with the state, we're still out, you know, even the pandemic, our kids are still out, you know, performing very well to peers, very well. And in a few months, Doc said, I'm sure Dr. Roos will have some more data to share that when we start being able to have it public, and we can show you where our learning losses were the most, where they were the greatest, what grade levels, what content areas, and like we always do. But that's going to we'll probably hope to have that maybe probably going to be November. that she will share that. Dr. Ruth, you have anything you want to add on that?
Just one comment. It is a testament to the hard work of all of our staff members. When we received the scores, I was, as Dr. Trill said, pleasantly surprised that although there was some learning loss, which we all anticipated, being able to be in school 5 days, have our kids here, there was not near the loss that I think others experienced. And again, that's just a testament to our teachers for continuing to teach through some very challenging times. So I appreciate that very much.
I think we all do. So, great
Yeah.
stuff. Yep.
And that's my superintendent's report.
Okay. I'll move on now to prior new business. The first item there is to approve the purchase of a visitor identification system.
If you remember, right before the pandemic, well, a couple months ago, I told you that we used to always, with our class parties, volunteers, speakers coming into the buildings, we always want to make sure that we keep our kids safe, but we try to make sure if anything, we don't have anyone come in that's going to be a danger to our kids, especially when they might be on a sexual offender list. So we always had a standing form a parent had to fill out every year as their kids moved to different buildings. We sent that into DFS. Mrs. Stanley spent hours doing that every day, and we'd get those results back in 24 hours. It was free process. It worked pretty well. But no longer is the state providing that. They put a $14 fee for every single, and we do about 1,000, 1,200 of those a year. And so so what we've done is we've gone out now, and again, this is the 21st century with a lot of technology, and we try to identify some technology systems that we could put at every building at some of the main entrances to where when we have individuals that want to be, are going on a field trip as adults, going to be in a class party, wanting to volunteer, real quickly, it's take your driver's license, you scan it over the thing, and then in a matter of moments, it runs a check and it comes back whether, the only thing we really mind is if you're on a sexual offender list. We don't start looking at them, do they have a warrant out for their arrest, but we look at, the sexual offender list, and then we can do some other custom things for our own self. If there's sometimes we have, some students might have some information like from the court saying this person should not have it. We can make it to where if a person shows their ID, it'll also pop up like this person can or can't have, access to a particular student. We're hoping that if this is approved, that we'll get the equipment and get that installed and have it up sometime again by the onset of winter in December. Mr. Earnhardt's kind of spearheaded a lot of that. Any comments you want to make on that?
Our goal is to have this up and running October 4th, which is a Monday. We've got training initially set up for our secretaries on October 1st. The system checks against the National Sex Offenders Registry. Like Dr. Luttrell says, we can create some lists ourselves. One of the things I really like about the system, if somebody hits on there, our SROs will automatically get a text. So it's so similar to like a silent alarm, so that will dispatch them to the front office just in case we have a scene or there's an issue. But it's a really good system. We used a similar system at my previous school. It couldn't do the things that this one can, but price was similar. So I think this is a really good system. It's going to be really good. We'll have front office of each of the 4 buildings. Then we're also going to set a checkpoint in the rear of the high school, just because that back entrance, once construction is done, it'll be used quite a bit. So we thought we'd put a station there as well.
So we would ask for a motion to approve the purchase of this visitor management system from Raptor Technologies. It's a cost for all the equipment initial setup of $9,993 is what we would be approving. And then ongoing cost is a yearly license to use it. And then I put in there, which we don't, with at each of the 4 buildings for moving forward, the total licensing fee every year would be about $3,300.
Total.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
For all 5
Yes.
spots,
It's
yes.
almost like a no-brainer.
And so, but tonight, all we're asking is a motion to approve the purchase of the initial system in the amount of $9,993.
Someone like to make that motion?
Can I just say I'll make it, but Dr. Luttrell said it with Raptor because this is a no-brainer.
All right, Ms. Betters asking as a motion.
Second.
Mr. Wilkins, second. Any other questions?
I have a question about it. So whenever you do the background checks before, what kind of information would come back?
pretty much the same. I mean, it was, if they were on a second, and we did get, which, we did get, if, on the DFS hand, they were able to provide us, if, for instance, if Jane Doe had filled out the form, and Jane Doe might not be a sexual offender, but there at some point, DFS had investigated them because maybe some form of a neglect or abuse from, and it might have been 8-10 years ago, we were able to flag that, and we would deny, but then I would reach out to them and say, look, this might have happened a while back, why don't you come in if you want and explain to me the circumstances, and I can then decide if it's something I want to, you know, so. And I think we'll still have some.
And the new system's gonna be the same kind of information.
But mainly focus on those that were severely with the sexual offenders that.
To make sure that's like not offering up more information than what we need.
No, I mean, we're not gonna, it's not gonna give speeding tickets and DUIs
Right.
and
Yeah.
things like that.
Other questions? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Then the last item on our open agenda will be setting the school district tax rate for the 2021-22 tax year.
And earlier, as you heard, Mr. Earnhardt gave what our recommended was, so this time what we would like is, we would like a motion to approve the recommended fiscal year 22 school district tax rate as was outlined in the earlier presentation, with basically that I've spelled out there, Fund 1 at $298, 0 in Fund 2, 0 in Fund 3, but then $1.10 in Fund 4 for the total of the 408.
Someone like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to set the district tax rate for FY22 for the $4.08.
Mr. Wilk?
A second.
Mr. Fowler? Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries. Does anyone else have anything for open session? If not, I'll entertain a motion with the roll call vote into executive closed session with a closed record and closed vote pursuant to RSMO 610.021, sections 3 and 13.
So moved.
Mr. Fowler?
Second.
Mr. Abrams, will you pull the board, please? Ms. Stanley?
Mr. Wendell?
Yes.
Mr. Padler?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Edding?
Yes.
Mr. Abrams?
Yes.
Mrs. Beresowski?